I had a gut feeling my wife was gearing up to end our marriage, so I took steps to safeguard my finances. A couple of weeks later, she served me divorce papers, but quickly backtracked when her scheme fell apart. Let me share my story. I've been a silent reader of posts like these for a while, never imagining I'd have my own tale to tell. Life, however, has a way of throwing curveballs, and I've been carrying this burden for months. I need to get it off my chest. To be clear, I'm not the type to leap to worst-case scenarios or assume the worst about people. My wife, let's call her S, and I had been together for 6 years, married for 4. Our relationship seemed rock solid, or so I believed. We had our share of highs and lows, but nothing screamed trouble. For most of our time together, we were that couple, deeply connected, sharing silly inside jokes, debating for hours over movie choices, and moving through life in sync. She'd plan thoughtful date nights, and I'd surprise her with her favorite takeout after a tough day. It felt natural, like we'd cracked the code to a happy marriage. That's why what happened next hit me like a freight train. About 6 months ago, things started to shift. At first, it was subtle. Small changes you might overlook if you weren't paying close attention. She began keeping her phone glued to her side, even for quick trips to the kitchen or while doing laundry. Before, her phone would sit untouched on the coffee table for hours, and she didn't care who glanced at it. One day, I teased her, asking if she was running a covert operation. She laughed it off, saying work was bombarding her with emails. Fair enough, I thought. But a few days later, she added a password to her phone, something she'd never done before. When I casually asked why, she mumbled something about security concerns and hackers. I didn't push, not wanting to seem paranoid, but it felt off, and it didn't stop there. She started taking calls out of earshot, which was new. Her phone would ring and she'd say, "I'll just take this quick," before slipping into the bedroom or stepping outside. When I asked who was on the line, she'd brush it off with, "Oh, just a work friend." Then I noticed her placing her phone face down on the table, a habit she'd never had. Once, when I reached across to hand her something, she swiftly moved her phone out of reach. It was a fleeting moment, but it stuck with me. The distance wasn't just about her phone, though. Our conversations, once effortless, became strained. When I brought up future plans, like where to go for our anniversary or saving for a new car, she'd give vague responses like, "Yeah, we'll figure it out," and change the topic. It all crystallized one day when she said she was meeting a friend for coffee. I happened to be nearby running errands, so I thought I'd surprise her. But when I got to the cafe, she wasn't with a friend. She was pacing outside, phone to her ear, speaking in a serious tone. I stayed in my car, not wanting to intrude, but caught snippets like, "It's almost set and new start soon." My heart sank. It didn't sound like a work issue or a friend drama. It felt bigger, like she was orchestrating something major. When she got home, I asked how her coffee date went, keeping my tone light. She spun a detailed story about her friend venting about a boyfriend. Later, out of the blue, she suggested we organize our finances, bank details, passwords, documents, for emergencies. It was odd. We'd never talked about this before, and the timing felt suspicious, especially with her recent behavior. When I asked what kind of emergencies, she shrugged, saying it was just practical in case something happened to one of us or we needed to make a big financial move fast. Her reasoning sounded logical, but her delivery felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced it. I nodded, saying it seemed like a good idea, but inside, red flags were waving. Why the sudden focus on our finances? That night I couldn't stop replaying her words, trying to piece things together. Was I overthinking it? Or was something deeper going on? The phone calls, the cafe conversation, her growing distance, it was adding up, and I didn't like the picture. A few days later, she brought up the finances again while I was making a sandwich in the kitchen. She asked if I'd thought about consolidating our bank details, casually mentioning if I knew where all the account info was. I set down the knife and faced her. "What's going on?" I asked, keeping my voice steady but firm. "You've been talking about money a lot lately. Is there something we need to discuss?" She looked startled, like she hadn't expected me to push back. "Nothing's wrong," she said quickly, forcing a laugh. "I just think it's important for emergencies." I pressed further, asking what kind of emergencies, but she dodged, saying, "Just life stuff, you know? It's not a big deal." Her vague answers only deepened my unease. The next day, while she was at work, I checked our joint account online. I found small, unexplained withdrawals over the past month, not big enough to raise alarms, but odd for not being tied to bills or groceries. I didn't want to accuse her without proof, but it looked like she was quietly moving money for some purpose I couldn't pinpoint. I held off confronting her, sensing I needed to tread carefully. I reached out to a trusted college friend who's a lawyer, sharing what I'd noticed without sounding like a conspiracy nut. He listened and said, "I'm not saying something's definitely up, But you're not crazy for wanting to protect yourself. Better safe than sorry. He guided me through steps to secure my finances, like transferring assets to a trust. It felt extreme, like I was bracing for a disaster I wasn't sure was coming. But the more I thought about her actions, the more it made sense to act. This wasn't just about money. It was about the life we'd built together. Memories of our wedding, late-night talks, and shared quirks flooded my mind. How had we gotten here? Taking these steps felt like admitting our trust was broken. That evening, while she was out, I sat at my desk, hands trembling as I opened my laptop. I reviewed bank accounts, investments, and our property deed. Each document felt like a betrayal, but a voice in my head urged me to protect myself. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just couldn't shake the fear that I'd regret not acting. I made a list of what I could transfer discreetly. The weight of it all pressed on my chest. I'd trusted her completely, and now I was playing defense against the person I thought would always be my partner. I called my mom, keeping it vague. "I need you to hold some things for me, just as a precaution," I said. She paused, sensing I wasn't telling her everything. "Are you okay?" she asked, worried. "Yeah, just being careful," I lied. She agreed to help without pushing further, though I could hear her concern. I felt ashamed involving her, but her support grounded me. By the time S got home, I'd started the process. I transferred most of my assets, savings, investments, and the house, to my mom's name, leaving just enough in our joint account to avoid suspicion. She came in, kissed my cheek, and suggested a movie like nothing was wrong. I played along, but inside I was a mess. Part of me felt guilty, like I'd betrayed her trust. Another part felt relieved, like I'd taken back control of a situation slipping away. For the next few days, I kept up the normal routine, not letting on that anything had changed. She seemed content, even overly cheerful at times, which only heightened my suspicions. Oddly, she stopped mentioning finances altogether, as if the topic had vanished from her mind. It felt deliberate, like she was avoiding it after I'd questioned her. I caught her watching me a few times, like she was gauging my mood or debating whether to say something. Whenever I noticed, she'd quickly shift focus to her phone or the TV. It felt like she was waiting for me to bring it up, testing the waters without diving in. I stayed vigilant, double-checking the asset transfers and confirming with my mom that all documents were secure. 2 weeks passed, and things seemed oddly normal. Too normal. S was suddenly more affectionate, chatting about work or dinner plans, a stark contrast to her months of distance. It made me second-guess myself. Was I overreacting? But then, one Friday night, she sat me down, turned off the TV, and said, "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. I knew what was coming. "I think we should get a divorce," she said, her voice eerily calm, like she was stating a fact. She talked about needing space, finding herself, and feeling like she'd lost her identity in our marriage. Generic breakup lines that explained nothing. Then she added, "I've made sacrifices for you, and I don't think you've appreciated them. I deserve better." That hit hard. It wasn't just that she wanted out. She was framing me as the villain, like I owed her something. I asked why now, and she mentioned a friend helping her see things clearly. She wouldn't meet my eyes, and my mind raced. Who was this friend? Why were they so involved? Stayed calm, saying, "If that's how you feel, we'll figure out the next steps." She seemed surprised I didn't fight or beg her to stay, but I was already focused on uncovering what was driving her calculated shift. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. Something bigger was at play. On Monday, I received the divorce papers. Her demands were aggressive. Half the house, my savings, the car, and vague spousal support clauses that made no sense given her solid income. It felt like she expected to walk away with everything I'd worked for. The specificity of her demands suggested someone was coaching her. On Monday, I received the divorce papers. Her demands were aggressive. Half the house, my savings, the car, and vague spousal support clauses that made no sense given her solid income. It felt like she expected to walk away with everything I'd worked for. The specificity of her demands suggested someone was coaching her. I started digging, checking her social media since she hadn't blocked me. I noticed a guy named Ryan liking and commenting on her posts. Not overtly, but enough to stand out. His profile showed a photo at the same cafe where I'd seen her weeks earlier, posted the same day I overheard her talk about starting fresh. My gut twisted. I found a comment from him saying, "You've got this," and a selfie that looked like it was taken at her new place. It wasn't hard proof, but it was enough to fuel my suspicions. I called a mutual friend, Tara, who'd known S for years, asking if she'd noticed anything off. Tara shut me down quickly, saying she didn't know anything and seemed eager to end the call. I tried another friend, Mia, who was equally cagey, but later called back, saying she needed assurance her words wouldn't come back to her. She revealed S had been spending a lot of time with Ryan, a co-worker who was heavily influencing her divorce strategy. Hearing his name clicked everything into place. This wasn't just about her wanting out. Someone was steering her. That Saturday, I parked near her apartment and saw her leave with Ryan. They didn't touch, but their closeness and private conversation said enough. They drove off together, and I didn't follow. I didn't need to. She wasn't just leaving me. She was planning a new life with him, and the divorce was her way to secure it financially. At the first mediation session, her lawyer came armed with a thick binder, listing her demands like they were perfectly reasonable. I stayed quiet, waiting for my lawyer's move. He slid a stack of papers across the table, saying, "Let's review these first." Her lawyer's confidence faded as he read through the documents showing I'd transferred all major assets to a trust in my mom's name weeks before her filing. The trust was ironclad and notarized. The room went silent. Her lawyer, frustrated, turned to her, saying, "You didn't mention this." She grabbed the papers, her face turning red, insisting they couldn't be real. Then she glared at me, accusing me of setting her up to sabotage her. I stayed silent, letting her piece it together. My lawyer explained the transfers were completed well before her filing, with all legal requirements met. There was no way to challenge it. She was livid, calling me unbelievable for protecting myself. I didn't respond. What could I say? This wasn't about hurting her, it was about surviving her plan. The session ended with her lawyer admitting they needed to regroup. Outside, she pulled me aside, saying, "This isn't over. You'll regret this." I replied, "My only regret is trusting you." After that, she unraveled. She bombarded me with calls and texts, first pleading, then raging, accusing me of being cruel. When I didn't respond, she spread stories to mutual friends, claiming the divorce was a prank or a test of our relationship. Some initially bought it, but her story fell apart when friends questioned why she'd filed legal papers for a prank. She then played the victim, saying I'd betrayed her trust by protecting my assets. The truth came out when a friend, Sam, showed me texts between S and Ryan. A mutual acquaintance, alarmed by Ryan's boasts about helping S secure her future, had shared screenshots with Sam. The texts revealed S and Ryan plotting to take my assets, with Ryan urging her to guilt me into agreeing. "Once you get the money, we'll start fresh," he wrote. It was calculated betrayal, not a marriage falling apart naturally. The texts spread among our friends, dismantling her narrative. People who'd supported her backed away, and even her closest allies distanced themselves. Her lawyer dropped her case, seeing no legal ground to stand on. Ryan vanished when it became clear she wouldn't get anything. Her confidence crumbled, and her calls turned to desperate pleas for reconciliation. I didn't respond. The damage was done. Her brother later apologized for believing her lies, admitting he hadn't known the full story. I kept the house, my savings, and gained peace of mind. My mom helped me make the house my own again, and life feels like mine now. No more second-guessing or betrayal. S is a closed chapter, and I'm writing the rest of my story.